Now, in the previous modules, we talked about your product or service in terms of their feature, their benefits, and their advantages. Now, when you look at feature, benefit, advantage, we can look at our product and kind of list those out. Remember that exercise? We listed out the features, we then tied them to benefits, and then we also tied them to specific advantages as they apply to the customer. Now, that's our product. But here's the question. How does the client perceive your product compared to somebody else's? Here's what we're going to do in this module. We're going to create a simple comparative analysis. And a comparative analysis is, you've seen them before when you go down on the internet websites, you've seen them where you're comparing different products, different services, or different pricing packages. This is no different. We're going to compare our products with our top 2 or 3 competitors as we see it in the market. So right now, I'd like you to think about 1, 2, maybe 3 competitors that sell your product or service. In other words, when you go talk to a customer, they're probably going to say, well, we already buy from this customer, or we've bought from this competitor in the past. Get the idea? So what I want you to do is think about 2 or 3 competitors that you may get or may see in the market. And what I want you to do is fill out this little comparative analysis chart that I have here. Here's what you're going to do. On the left column right here, you see where it says you, that's your company. Now across the top, you see it says FBA sub 1. Feature, benefit, advantage 1. In other words, write down a feature, benefit, advantage at the top that you currently have with your product or service. Next column, FBA 2, write another feature, benefit, advantage that you have. Again, we did this in the previous module where you talked about feature, benefits, and advantage. So just list one of those there. Pick your top 3 right now. Then, third column, list your third top feature, benefit, advantage that your product or service offers. Okay? Then put a quick check mark across all 3. Top column. Get the idea? Now what I want you to do is on the left-hand side where it says C1, C2, and C3, list out your 3 competitors. Competitor 1, write their name in. Competitor 2, write their name in. Competitor 3, write their name in. And then, based on the 3 features that you've listed here, the 3 FBAs, feature, benefit, advantages, go in and check off whether or not your competitor offers that product or service, or that feature in this case. So in other words, you can see in the first column that none of your 3 competitors offer that feature. That's great news, by the way. In the second column, you realize that competitor 1 offers feature number 2, which means that if you're talking to a customer who's already using that competitor, that's not going to be a differentiator. We'll talk about that in just a bit. Competitor number 2, as you can see, has features number 2 and 3, but does not have number 1. And then competitor 3 only has the 3rd feature. Now, it's good to know this stuff before you walk in to see a customer, because when you're talking to the customer, they may be using one of these competitors. And if they're not, they're probably going to compare you to one of them anyway. For example, you're sitting there talking to the customer, and the customer says, well, why are you different than competitor number 2? Right there. Well, then you can say, well, we offer the same features they offer in terms of feature 2 and feature 3, but they don't have feature number 1, which is why we're better. Get the idea? If you walk into a customer's facility and they're using competitor number 3, well, here's where your opportunity to kind of differentiate your product, because what you're going to highlight for them is that they although that their competitor, our competitor number 3, offers feature number 3, they don't offer feature 1 and 2, which you do. And that's an advantage. See, now it becomes a strategy in how you can actually sell the customer. If the customer, in summary, is using one of these 3 competitors, by having a comparative analysis like this, you'll be able to adjust your strategy, know how to kind of attack it, if you will, and how to talk to the customer so you can highlight your features over your competitors. Again, very simple to do. List out the feature, benefits, advantage that we did in the previous module, right? Across the top. Now, you may have more than 3, and that's okay. I would try to limit it to 5, no more than 7. But I think 3 to 5 is the ideal range, if you ask me. That's my opinion. And again, it's a subjective opinion. But if you can list out 3 to 5 key feature, benefit, advantages your product offers, that's a great start. Write those across the top. On the left-hand column, obviously put yourself, check off all 3 to 5, and then list out your top 2 or 3 competitors. If you don't know who they are right now because you're just starting out, that's okay. You'll get to know them soon enough, because as soon as you start selling into the market, these companies are going to start bringing them up, saying, well, we already use this competitor. Well, then what you're going to do is you're going to go back to your matrix and write that competitor in, do some research, and see if they offer the same features or benefits that you offer. Now, look at your product and your service, and all we're looking for are differentiators. Now, let's define differentiation, even though the word pretty much defines itself. It's why you're different than your competitors. This is what customers are looking for. What's the difference? What are the differences between this and that? If I buy from you, what's the before, what's the after, okay? But we need to make sure that we have this information readily available, be able to recall that almost immediately when we're talking to a customer. So again, this is something that you don't really show a customer often. I always keep this kind of in my back pocket, so to speak, but I know it by heart. I've memorized the chart. And so when I'm talking to a customer and they bring up any one of these competitors, I now know how to attack their points of weaknesses, because I know what features or feature benefit advantages they do not have. So your homework assignment is create your own comparative analysis and then be able to kind of memorize that, because later on we're going to incorporate that into our presentation. But in a sense, this provides almost a sales map on how you're going to sell, how you're going to share your information with your customers. So go ahead and do the exercise. We'll see you in the next module.